Hey guys, welcome back. My name is Michael McCarville, and this is Fun with Fallen Flags, episode 73. This is the O for Loop series, and this is part 4. We already did the overview, then we did the outhouse sitting at the depot, small structure. We did another small structure, the section car shed, and then we're going to do this structure, which is a big structure, the Oilton Club Saloon. I've heard of it called the Gilton Club Saloon as well. I'm not sure where they get their names, but this is the black and white structure that is in a lot of photos of the loop. So thank you to the friends at Cumbres and Toltec for allowing me to use their photos so we can put a historical context, weathering, color, things like that. It's the structure in the black and white photo, and the structure is black and white, so that's actually what it really looks like. The structure sits up the track outside the loop towards the Silver Bell Mine and Mill, which is continue on up that road. And it's a two-story saloon. It's the only structure that still exists at the loop, and it's been turned into a residence, but it's kind of a brownish color, but it looks a lot like what that structure looks like right now. Same lines and the same stairwell that's outside the building and that type of thing. I want to thank Bill Banta for sending me a copy of the Oilton Club Saloon kit from Banta Modelworks, kit number 2112. That is a re-released kit. I thought it was a new kit, but apparently it got a facelift, and I can tell you by what I've already put together so far, the pieces go together really well. It's very well engineered. We're going to do a 1940s-ish look to it. This structure really doesn't have a ton of weathering on it. It looks like it gets painted white quite often, but flat white, flat black, you pretty much find those colors anywhere. I got to say that my kit is going to look like that, but Bill's kit actually comes out looking better than what we're going to do, because he has a lot of black and white alternating colors of windows, where mine, all the interior components of the windows, everything's black, because as you can see, everything's black. There aren't really a lot of good photos of the structure, but the Friends of Cumbres and Toltec site, I can get little snippets here and there, but not really a good. This photo here is actually of the depot area, and this is heavily zoomed in, so it's a little fuzzy. But that's about the only shot that I can see of the entire structure. It's got the roof, the stairwell, the little porch, and then off on the far right side there's a little shed that sits on there too. That's the kit. Anyway, again, simple paint and chalk powders a little bit on the roof, and some maybe on the floor outside the front door and that type of thing, and then Testors Dullcoat. Now you got to remember, when you're spraying Testors Dullcoat, cover the windows. I found that out one time, and I was just about to shoot, and I was like, oh, that could have been a bad mistake. So a little piece of painter's tape on there, and we'll take care of it. Other than that, I'm going to put all the information down below in the notes for this video. So Bill Banta's website, the Friends of Cumbres and Toltec's website, my Facebook group and YouTube channel, and that type of thing. All that stuff's going to be down there if you have any questions. But let's go ahead and crack up the kit and take a look at the parts. Okay, so here it is. We have the Oilton Club Saloon. And we're going to take a look at the contents. There's a lot of bags in here. There is instructions, 4 pages of instructions. And the thing that I noticed when I peeked in it earlier was there is a lot of photographs in these instructions, which some of the earlier kits don't have a ton of photos. They have some, but none of the kits that we've built so far have instructions. I mean, if you look at this, the instruction sheet is mostly photos, so that should simplify and speed things up a little bit. So pictures of the sheets and how the windows go into the frame. I mean, it's fantastic. There's a lot of photos in this thing. And then the back page of the instructions has the kit that they built, and then all the colors that they chose and the weathering and that type of thing on here. So that's going to be very helpful when we decide to make some decisions, especially in areas that we don't see photographs of. There's a little bit of the left-hand wall. The back, there's no photographs at all of what the back looks like and the back around the back of the shed. So anyway, I get excited about stuff like that. There's another 4 sheets on here of just the parts diagrams, the parts layout. So what you can see here is, you know, where the how the door assemblies are laid out on the sheets, and I mean there's a lot on here. The last sheet, we'll get to that. The last sheet has the signage and then a lot of the advertising signs that are printed out, so you can either cut them out of the sheet, make copies of it, whatever you want to do. If you choose to add some of that advertising stuff, we'll go for what it looks like in real life. So we'll see if we can pull that out. I know that there's not a ton of photographs of this kit, of this structure in real life. I did go through pretty extensively doing some research. So. Okay, so let's go through the bags real quick. I'm going to lay these out here in a second, but what you can see is there are a lot of bags for the parts. These heavier ones are the basic construction. So Banta Modelworks does an inside wall, outside wall build. So you build the inside wall, and that's basically just the rough construction piece. And then the outside walls are thinner and they're a bit of a veneer and they go over that. Sometimes the outside walls also include board and batten pieces like this. And what you see is you'll have a inside wall major construction piece, outside wall thin veneer, and then board and batten pieces will go over the outside veneer, so you get a two-dimensional effect. And then it looks like there's battens that are going down vertically up and down on the outside walls. So anyway, we're going to crack these things open and take a look at them. Now I did notice on my kit, now this is I thought this was a new kit. This is actually a reproduction, an updated kit. So it looks like one of the parts bags only has 2 pieces in it, and it looks like there are it's the shed piece that goes on the side. It's this piece here. And there's looks like 2 walls, some veneer, some board and battens. Anyway, this bag says use these parts in place of the ones in the other bags. These should be a better fit. Always test fit first before gluing. Very good advice. I test fit like crazy. It's going to save you a lot of work down the road. Make sure you get everything sanded and filed properly before you glue it. But so this is actually updated pieces. And what looks like these 2 pieces are those 2 pieces, and then there's some side walls to the shed as well. It looks like the replacement. So it looks like they found something and they wanted to tighten it up just a little bit. So your kit may have these, it may not. Okay, so real quick, we're going to go through the pieces. So the inside walls, outside walls, board and battens is kind of the order of construction for the main walls. So what you have here is you have the back wall, the front wall, side walls, lots of the smaller walls for the shed and the little stairway on the front of it, and then the base, some trim pieces, and then these are supports, A-frame supports for the roof section, which are here. These are the main roof, some smaller roof sections, stairway roof. This is actually some stairs, roofing material. And then that's the main structure. On top of that, once that's constructed, and we're going to do that first, is the thin veneer pieces that go over the outside. So these will go on the outside. On top of that will be the board and batten pieces to give it a 3-dimensional look like we talked about. There's some dimensional lumber. There's some smaller pipe pieces here for roof jacks and that type of thing. Some signage, and then the board and batten pieces, some trim pieces. This is actually a template. There's a fold line is a template for the framing of the front porch. Window sections that we're going to build up. Also, it's great to leave these on the sheets that they're on and paint them while they're on the sheets. It makes it much easier to assemble them and keep track of everything. Now what we have left is, this is the wood for the front porch, so you don't have to build that up board by board, and then the acetate window pieces. I'm leaving these in the bag. These are the replacement pieces that this kit came with. Yours, if it's a updated one, this may be remedied, but these are the replacement pieces, which are essentially these two pieces and these two pieces, I believe, is what's in the bag. So anyway, we'll get to all that. What we're going to do next is we're going to build up the main structure. I'll put the ends, front and back wall, this piece on, the roof section, and we're just gluing it together like a big jigsaw puzzle. Test fit everything as you go. Sand down for a good clean fit. You may have to sand some of the tabs down and follow the instructions word by word, because in there all that's discussed as far as making sure you get a good concise fit, making sure the tab construction is the tabs are sanded so that if the material is maybe just a hair thicker than what they anticipate, that what you end up with isn't just pieces glued together without test fitting and without sanding, but you may have to do a little bit of modification. Probably not much. Typically in a kit like this, I wouldn't expect much, but we'll go through that. So we're going to go ahead and build the main structure, and then we'll take a look at what we have, and then we'll start talking about some of the outer wall pieces. The instructions mentioned using painter's tape to keep the corners nice and snug. It's a great idea. I also use a framing square taped down to my desktop, and I think that helps keep the wall sections in place as well. The base is actually taped down. When it's drying right now, it's taped down so that it stays nice and snug into that corner, that square corner of that framing square. And then I use a drafting triangle to make sure that vertically everything stays nice and straight. So I'm going to go ahead and continue taping and gluing and squaring, and then when all of this is put together, we'll go ahead and take a look and see how the inner walls look. At this point, the inner walls are all put together, the roof is assembled, but I haven't attached the roof. If you're following along the instructions, we're at step 8, but I haven't attached the roof yet. The A-frame supports are in there, but other than that, it's just sitting on top of the structure. The inner walls of the main structure, the stairwell, and the shed, all that's put together. There's thin little pieces around the bottom. That's the foundation. All those have been glued in place. Put a heavy bead of glue around it on the foundation, and also around the inside and the walls and the corners and the roof. Really thick layer on the roof. It's still drying. It's been probably well over an hour. So that's going to take a little bit longer to dry, but that's not going to hold us up. So I'll give you an idea of what this thing looks like, a little bit better view. But you can see all the pieces. There was a whole row of heavy-duty MDF pieces that were on the left side, plus that little chunk out of the center where the saloon is sitting. So this is what it looks like after step 8 of just the basic construction. Next part is going to be more of the detail work, but we're going to put the outer walls, the skins around the outside, the roof, and then some of the details, the windows, and there's 2 smoke jacks that are marked here, and I haven't drilled those out yet, but I did mark them when these were flat so I could get the really good close position. They're marked on the instructions, and I'll drill those out here in a little bit, but I wanted to mention that it's probably a good idea to mark those. Probably even better to drill those out while it's flat, but I wanted to put the whole thing together first and see how this one especially lined up with the front of the roof. I don't want the smoke jack hole to come down through the outside of that, and I think this one's pretty close, so I might have to modify it a little bit. Just looking at it, it's going to be tight where I marked it, so I'm going to probably pull it up the roof just a little bit. I want that smoke jack obviously to end up going down the inside of the building, not on the outside of the building. So if I just would have drilled it, it looks like to me I probably would have been in a bad place. So I'll drill those out. Okay, so the instructions show that the next step for us to go through is to skin this thing out. So we're going to put the first layer of siding is thin plywood, so it's those thin pieces that are going to go on, and then the battens are going to go over that. So we already have the structure. We're going to put the thin layer of plywood all around, and then we're going to put the battens over that. So I'm going to go ahead and apply all of those pieces, and then we'll take a look and see how it looks after we've got the outside walls put on, that outside skin in place. Okay, so at this point the battens have been glued onto the wood veneer pieces that we put on the inner walls. So we have 3 layers. We have the inner wall, the outer wall, and the batten pieces. The instructions talk about using 3M Super 77. They don't actually specify this, but they do have it in the photo. So I used this, found it at Home Depot, put it on, sprayed it on, and a couple little things about working with that. You want to make sure that you flip it over, spray the backside, pick it up with tweezers, try not to get too much on your hands so you don't make a mess. Line it up as close as you can, and then press it in place. If you get a little adhesive where you don't want to, you can carefully take a little piece of duct tape and put over the top of it and then like peel it off. You just don't want to put a lot of pressure on the piece because it's easy to pull that batten material straight off the plywood. So best to just get a good alignment, press it in place, let it dry, move on to the next piece. So honestly, that's actually some pretty slick stuff. I'm going to use this for roofing. This stuff is great. So it does give you a little bit of time to play with. I know the instructions tell you that you don't have much time. It was a little forgiving, but again, you know, line it up, press it in place, and then you don't have to worry about it. So at this point, and look at the pieces that are left. We got almost nothing left. Some roofing, some trim pieces, and doors and windows. So since we're at the door and window stage, we need to talk about paint. So let me show you a picture of the structure itself. This is about 1953 or maybe a little bit later. Friends of Cumbres and Toltec again, gentlemen, thank you. This is from their website. So what you see is white and black. Earlier pictures, white and black. Later pictures, when it's decrepit, white and green trim, but it looks like it's not a very good paint job on the green trim, so it's obviously been painted over with this. Couple of red doors on it. So these 2 doors here on the shed and the one next to the shed, these 2 doors, if you see in the photo right there, you can see that it's actually kind of a reddish color. So that's an option if you want to do that, but I'm going to go with black all around. It's going to simplify painting if nothing else, but also I'm not sure if that was a new enhancement or whatever. Also, when you're painting this, the roof still isn't attached. We're leaving it that way. We'll attach it when the instructions tell us to. We're going to mask off the foundation, and this piece down here that we glued on, this is actually the foundation. There's a scribed line that runs through here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to paint that a grayish stone color, but not now. I'm going to mask that off, spray paint this, and then I'll probably brush paint this because it's not very big, and mask the wood off, and then paint that a gray stone color. So at this point you need to decide what you want your windows to look like. I'm going to paint almost all my windows and doors black. You can see a few little white panels on the doors, and I need to go find those and pull those out. But when you're painting, um, paint everything on that sheet. So if it's going to be black, then paint the sheet black. If it's going to be white, pull them off and paint it alongside with this so you get your paint out one time. So we want to kind of plan what we're going to do. So it's essentially going to be white and a few underside of the door panels white. Other than that, that whole sheet's going to get painted black, and I'm probably going to keep everything on that sheet as I build up the windows. All the doors and windows all get sandwiched together. There's a ton of photos in here of how to do that properly, and even alternate methods on how to build this up in one piece, slip it in from the back, build it up separately. So it gives you a couple different ideas depending on how you want to build this up. Once we get all the doors and windows in place, then we're on to the roofs. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get this painted. We'll take a quick look at it, and then we'll take a look at the painted sheets for the doors and windows about what we're going to do next. So this is what the structure looks like painted white. Also, the foundation has been painted a medium gray, and there are two very small squares that are used for the two windows of the stairwell. There's not a third one. If you're looking for one, don't bother because there's only two of those. The third small gray section I hand painted, and you can see it on the face right next to that other small stairwell window. Now, that probably is something that you could easily mistake for the small square, depending on which one you want to mask off and paint. But the two squares that are supposed to go over the windows are the ones that actually have the framing window pieces in it. Also, I'm not sure if the kit is intended to put plastic acetate material behind those windows, but the real structure had it. Now, at this point, getting acetate down inside that little space is going to be a chore, so you may just want to skip it completely. I'm going to go ahead and put a piece of acetate, cut it in a long strip, and then just slip it down in there and just put some glue on the very bottom of it and the top of it, just so that there's acetate behind the window. The one on the corner that's at the top of the stairs on the wall that you can't see, that's going to be easier to put acetate on, so maybe you just opt for that one. But I can tell you the one on the face of the stairway in photos that I've found does have glass in it. So that's what I'm going to do. I don't know if it's ever going to be noticed, if anybody's ever going to see that, but now's the time to do it if I'm going to do it. I'm not going to go back and do it later. So I'm also going to paint the frames inside the window, the cross members of the panes inside the windows black, and I'm not going to leave them white. But if you want a contrast, like a lot of the stuff that Bill has done on his kit, that contrast is always is there. So that might be something that you just put that black frame piece over it and then call it done and don't worry about the acetate. That would certainly be the easiest thing to do. I'm going to go a little further and paint the pane pieces black and put acetate behind it, just because I'm modeling the one that actually existed. So let's go ahead and take a look at the windows next. So here's the windows. A good example is the windows, the frames along the bottom. Those what are there, 8, 9 plus the big doorway frame. Those all have sills in them. So you have the frame, you insert the sill at the bottom, and then the smaller window pieces are supposed to slide into that frame. So Bill mentions two ways to do it. Build up the whole thing and then put it in, or put the frames on and then insert the windows. So I played around with both, and what I ended up doing was putting the sill and the frame onto the outside of the wall, then on the back side inserting the window, and then adding a little bit of glue around the inside. I experimented with construction grade. It's basically Titebond III. glue, waterproof construction grade Elmer's glue. And then I also played around with super glue, very, very thin viscosity, so it would, run around the seam. But I'm not sure which I like better. They both had their merits, so I ended up using a combination of kind of both on all the windows. So my process was not to build them all up. My process was to put the outside frame and the sill on, and then insert the window bottom first, tuck it up against the sill, and then put it up in place. If you overpainted some of the openings for the windows, you may have to file some of that down, but it shouldn't be a problem because it's all going to be completely hidden by the window anyway. So if you have to get in there with a file, there's about 2 places that got a little bit heavier coat than I needed, and I ended up having to file it down. So at this point, the windows are assembled, and we're going to install those and take a look at see what it looks like. The doors and windows are all in place around all the sides. I haven't done the main doors. I'm going to do those last. But other than that, the structure's got the doors on the ends, the windows, and then I'm going to do the main doors. Next step is to stain the planking outside the front door on the porch, and then I can put they ask that you wait until the planking is done before you put the stairway door. So I'm going to stain this, put that on, finish the remainder of these 2 doors on the front, and then I'll do these 2 little frames here on that structure. And I'm going to paint the interior black, but if you like a nice contrast, you can leave it. So let's go ahead and get all the last of the doors and windows in place, and then the planking, and then we'll take a look at the next step. Alright, so we got the main doors installed. I actually glued them together side to side, put a piece of scrap wood on the back side just to make sure that they're a single unit. If you want to open one or the other, then you can certainly do that. I just wanted it closed, and I left the roof on so you can see how much light is coming in through each of the windows, and it's really dark in there, so you don't really have to worry too much about detailing the interior or lighting or anything like that. But if you leave the roof loose, then you might be able to get inside there. You could always go underneath in the future if you needed to. It's just a single wood panel, so it wouldn't be difficult to get inside there or even inside the shed in the future. I will not be detailing this interior at this point, and I won't be putting any lighting in it at this point, so maybe in the future, but I can get into it if I need to. So the main doors are done. I did have to sand them a little to get them to fit. The planking has been stained. There's also a small trim board that's supposed to go underneath here as well. And let me see if you can see what that looks like. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So you can kind of see that trim board and then the planking on top. So once the planking was on, we could install the stairway door as well. And then I was able to put the frames on these 2 windows, these guys right here. I also painted the black pane material so it's all one color. The kit actually has it where you can actually see white and black, so it looks a little more interesting. But again, I'm following what the actual structure looks like. And then the acetate is down inside this crevice. I just had to fish it down there and get it in place. So that's everything that we talked about as far as where we're at. So the next step is to build the support. This is a piece of cardboard that's folded in half, glued, and then you get a template, which is actually kind of slick. 2 pieces of cardboard laser cut and makes the template. And that's going to be the support right there. And I'm going to stain that wood, cut it, glue it together, and then mount it. And since I'm going to stain this material, the steps need to get stained as well. So I'm going to stain those at the same time. Once all that's done and assembled, I'm going to go ahead and work on the trim pieces, cut those and glue those up. In the kit you have a sheet of material, looks like this. It's just a whole bunch of pieces that are all cut to standard width. Those are the pieces that are going to go on the ends, and one for each corner. So it'll basically be create an angle. So a lot like a lot of the other kits that we've already built. So let me go ahead and do the porch supports, get that in place, and then stain and glue the stairs, and then add all the trim all the way around on the corners, and just going by the instructions. And then after that, we'll jump back in and we'll take a look at starting the roof assembly, which is the last major piece to this kit. So this is what it looks like with the trim pieces put in place, the porch supports as well. Those are on, and the stairs are built. They got stained at the same time, but I'm going to wait to glue those on at the very last step, which is actually the last step, just because I don't want to knock them off, and I'm sure they're going to get banged off if I don't. So next, I'm going to glue all of the roof pieces on. I've decided to just go ahead and glue the roof, the top main big roof piece on, but I'll probably use Walther's glue on that just so if I needed to I could pull it off in the future. But everything else is going to get glued on with Titebond, so it's not coming off. So I'm going to glue all the roof sections on. They're already pre-painted black just so that the undersides of them look decent. Glue all the roof sections on, then I'll apply trim to the roof, and then we'll take a look at that before we start to apply the roofing material. Okay, the roof is done. The trim work is done. There's also a couple of pieces of material that run down the top crest of the roof, and then that little stairway pop out. You want to make sure that all the trim boards get lined up real well. But that dimensional piece of lumber that runs down basically fills that void that's right at the very top of the crest of the roof, where otherwise there'd be kind of a chunk out of it. So there's one on the top of the big roof, there's one on the top of the little roof, and then I glued the little roof on using lots of glue because I want to make sure it's on there nice and tight. And you can see the trim boards go around. That takes a little bit of work, but it actually looks really nice when it's done. And then there's those two supports. That's actually part of the kit, and that basically anchors those two panels together, and then it just basically glues. Best thing to do is to put the big roof on the structure, let it sit there. I had it on there loose, and then line up the smaller little pop-out roof, and then glue that in place, and just let it all dry while it sits there. And then you can take it off and reinforce it. And I reinforced the heck out of it. You can see there's tons of glue on the inside of that roof. So let's take a look at what the structure looks like now. Okay, so the structure is basically the roofs are glued on, and you can see that it's been painted, but I only painted around the outside trim pieces, and I painted underneath the eaves of all the roof sections. So all of that has been ready to go for shingling. Now the shingling, the material that's in the kit is tissue paper, and it's meant to be cut in strips and then put on there like rolled out tar paper, or like asphalt, rolled out asphalt roofing, like 3.5 foot strips. That would be typical in HO scale, and then just roll it across. There's alignment lines that are cut into it with laser, so you can use those for guidelines. But the original roofing on the structure in the time period we're doing is actually tin sheeting, and even some of the later on pictures you can see that it's got a tin sheeting. Let me bring that up real quick and we'll take a look at that. Again, my friends from Cumbres and Toltec, you guys are invaluable. Alright, so you can see the lines of the tin sheeting that run vertical, and then there's a seam down the center of that. And the overhang over the front door, same with that, and then up the smaller roofs that go off to the left side. So I'm going to experiment, and we'll see how well this works, but I've just cut up strips of, essentially this is a parchment type resume paper, And it's got a little bit of a texture to it, but I think that's going to go away when I paint it. So I'm essentially going to go ahead and shingle the roof and shingle all the small roofs with this. And if this doesn't work out, then I'll just do tissue paper like the instruction says, and we'll do them vertically and be done with it. So, but it's going to get painted kind of a off black. What you see here is a lot more aging, so you can see the rust coming through up through the base color of the roof. But that's what it looks like after it's got some severe age, but that's way past the time that we even want to consider. So the same material that we used, the spray 3M Super 77 multi-purpose adhesive that was pictured in the instructions, we used this for the board and batten material, if you remember. So I used it also for the resume paper, the parchment paper that I used to simulate the metal panels. So all of that has been added, so all the roofs are completely covered. So they're ready for paint. I'm going to paint those. I'm going to add the smoke jacks, and then I'm going to put the stairs on. And once all three of those steps are done, then we'll come back and we'll go ahead and look at what it looks like completed. Okay, that's going to do it. So we got the roof painted, we got the smoke jacks on, and we got the stairs glued on as well. The smoke jacks are got a little bit of rust dry brushing on them, and then they've got some they're essentially black, but they've got some grayish stains and stuff on them as well, so they just don't look quite so uniform. The stairs are just glued onto the base with super glue. I actually reinforced them a lot because I wasn't sure how much they were going to get affected by ground cover and things like that. And then the roof panels, they do have a little bit of weathering on them, and I'm probably going to come back and attack them a little bit more. Here, let me switch pictures. You see the other angle. But the weathering will probably be a work in progress because I don't want to go quite as heavy as the kit, but I want to mirror what the actual structure looks like. Also, that door that leads out over the shed, according to the kit, there's a little walkway. But according to the photos that I haven't seen that anywhere, so I haven't added that yet. So this will probably be a little bit of an evolution of this kit. The sign that goes in between the four windows in the center that says Oilton Club Saloon, that's provided with a kit. Haven't seen that in the picture, so I haven't added it. And again, I want to make this look like the photo of the structure on in black and white matches the photo of the layout so that it looks the same. So anyway, that's going to do it for this project. I have a couple other kits still for the Ophir area that we haven't even touched yet. The depot we haven't even touched, Mrs. Skillen's store we haven't touched, and the quality store, which is right next to that, we haven't touched. So all those three buildings, all in the very center of town, we're going to build all of those. Plus we've got two trestles that we have to build. At least one of them is going to be scratch built. I have one that is a 4-footer that I filmed earlier, but I'm probably going to replace that, but that won't be replaced until later. So there's a lot of activity in Ophir that we still haven't done yet. I want to thank Bill Banta from Banta Modelworks for providing the kit, allowing me to feature this as a video for his products. And I want to thank the friends at Cumbres and Toltec. I'm going to include both those websites plus our group and our channel and any other information about the processes that we use in the creation of this kit in the notes below. So if you have any questions and you can't find it there, reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to answer questions or at least refer you on to people that would probably know better than me. So I appreciate everybody watching and the support. So I will see you on the next episode. This is episode 73, so I think we've already done 74, so I think the next one is episode 75. So I look forward to hearing your comments, and I appreciate you guys watching. Take care and enjoy modeling.